Welcome to Action 1. Today, we're going to be going over how you can use Action 1 to automate your Windows updates. So this way you're able to deploy out your updates faster and more consistently. And as such, we should see the number of missing updates that you have in your environment go down quite considerably. Now, within Action 1, before we create our automations, the most important thing that we should be doing is creating some type of group structure. This way we can automate the rollout of our patches across multiple different collections of endpoints. And this can be used for singular deployments or potentially creating some type of update ring deployment. Now we can see that we have the ability to create new groups in Action 1 quite easily by creating a new group up here from the Endpoint section. And when I do this, I am able to create these groups via a few different built-in criteria options. Now I can pick some very straightforward ones like ADOU, very useful if you have a well-structured OU environment. You could do something like AD security group. We can use this as an example as well. We could grab information from, say, the IP address range in case we're targeting certain VLANs. But the general idea is we're able to automatically select criteria that can then be used for grouping to create what we see on the left side of my screen here. A patching group A, B, C, and D. Essentially my first test group, my second test group, production group A, production group B, and so on. The idea is that we can create phased rollout groups to allow us to do controlled deployments of Windows updates out to our systems. So that way if something does go wrong, we're able to prevent that from affecting even more endpoints in our environment. Now, by going to the automation section here, we can start really creating those automations to control that patching process. Now, when we create a new automation in Action 1, we have two options we can choose from: deploy updates or update rings. We're going to focus on deploy update today for the simple fact that it's just a little more direct and easier to get something in place to get updates rolled out effectively and quickly. Now, since we're discussing Windows updates today, we are going to focus primarily on the matching filters criteria here. We have a few ways that we can structure our deployments. A go-to recommendation would be to target an update source and select OS mandatory. This captures any operating system updates that are applicable for your device. So for Windows updates, this will be all cumulative updates, security updates, and so on. Now, you can also come in and apply filters. So maybe I want to make a point of excluding things like drivers from my environment. That is also an option that you can easily set within the Action 1 console. Now, other ways you can go about this, granted not as recommended, but still an option, would be things like update types, where you can target only security updates of the OS mandatories type, or you could target on top of that regular updates along with definition. But some concerns there can be that you would be missing the rest of these update types. So make sure you choose the filter carefully and you understand the context that that is going to apply for the automation as to what is going to be deployed versus not being deployed. Now from here, we have some other configuration settings that we can work with. We can either have this be a fully automated process. So for things like your test instance, deploying out test updates to test groups, automatic deployment and approval is certainly an appealing option because it will allow you to just have that updates go out to the appropriate systems and have it be a fully automatic process. Now you can put in delay windows as well between the release of that update and when it's actually deployed to your systems. So some organizations want to have a 3-day window between when that update has been actually released by the vendor and then have it be deployed out to their systems. This makes sure that that 3-day window is in place with the exceptional scheduling as structured. Now, for things like server patching, we often recommend using update approval instead. This gives you manual control over what patches are being deployed to your devices. And this flag right here is what controls if update approval is even required. Because remember, with this flag, this is all automated. This flag will tell us that we need to actually go to update approval and manually approve or decline patches that we either want to or do not want to install. Again, this gives us more manual control over what is being deployed to these devices. Again, maybe not as applicable for test systems, but when you're starting to push things out to production, if you want to have a little more control over what updates are being installed, this is a great way to do that. Now, if we go back to our automation, we can control some other settings as well. We control things like reboot options, right? We can fully automate the reboot process and even prompt the end users that a reboot is required. And we can, of course, brand this as well so they know it's coming from our internal IT department. Now, you can also exclude updates from these deployments as well. So if there's very specific updates that you want to make a point of ignoring, you can select them from the screen here. And then from action one, you can then say add and make a point of not having those updates installed, no matter what your filter criteria or your approval statistics say. And then finally, we have a deactivate updates in Windows setting button. This essentially prevents Windows from doing automatic updates on their own, and instead tells action one you are in charge of that update process. Now from here, we can target the groups that we created. Again, we're able to target collections of devices via the grouping function. And then I can set this on a reoccurring schedule to run and then automate the patching process for me. So this could be a weekly deployment that runs on a consistent time. It could run current time zone or local endpoint time. This could be a monthly deployment based off the set day of the month. Really, whatever I want to schedule for is going to be an option. And then action one does have a retry / maintenance window setting here that you can also configure to make sure that even if devices say miss a deployment, let's say we run this every Monday and we have a device that is not online at this time, if my window is set to a long enough time frame, say 7 days as an example, the system will still receive the updates as long as it comes online within 7 days. So for instance, if it came online on Friday, it would still receive patches. The inverse of this is, creating a maintenance window where we say, actually, only run this automation for 5 hours. So as an example, if I do my server patching at 1 a.m. on Saturday night, Action 1 can only run this automation process from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. because of that 5-hour window. So this way we have a good level of control over when these update processes are going to actually run. Now, from here, we can click Finish, and this will create an update automation that we can then have run on a reoccurring basis. Now, of course, from there, you can create consistent different update deployments that target your different groups. So those might run on a different schedule, or they might have a different delay window. But the idea is, through Action 1, through these update deployments, you're going to be able to automate that patching. And again, very quickly see these update numbers go down quite significantly. Thank you very much for your time.